former President Jacob Zuma has won his appeal against the IEC's disqualification. Of course, the Electoral Court just releasing that order electronically just moments ago. And of course, we'll continue to get reaction on this particular case. This is a big news, particularly for the Umkhonto weSizwe party. On that note, we have MK party spokesperson Ndhlela, who joins me now. Nhlamulo, thank you so much for your time. Well, the Electoral Court has come out with that order, of course, former President Jacob Zuma, MK party leader, winning that appeal against the IEC as disqualification. Your reaction?
Well, our reaction is that, this is a spiritual process. MK party, for its being established and being really a catalyst of change for the people. It is clear that this is what our ancestors want, and what we're seeing here is as based on what's happening. It's a spiritual process. I can't say much more than that. But I think what's also important to note is that we've continuously said that there's all sorts of attempts towards this process of us getting back President Zuma in the union buildings as our president. The people want him there. The people want him to lead. People are tired of the status quo under the Cyril Ramaphosa-led government. We want lights. We want water. People want homes. And what is happening here just resonates with a truly spiritual process that's going through. And we will continue on our journey to get a 2/3 majority.
So this order came a few moments ago. I'm sorry, I will come back to you on that. Moments ago, you were obviously right here at the SABC studios waiting with us.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to speak to former President Jacob Zuma about this particular matter? And of course, just his reaction. What is the sentiment on the ground?
No, unfortunately, you grabbed me before President Zuma could call me, or him and I could have a discussion, but I'll certainly be calling him after this. But as I was saying, President Zuma, we want President Zuma back. The people want President Zuma back as the leader of this country. I mean, here's what's also interesting. There's been 15,000 candidates on that parliamentary list from various parties. President Zuma is the only one out of 15,000 people that are getting an objection. That in and of itself is very telling. But again, this is very important for the people of Umkhonto weSizwe, our members, the downtrodden citizens of this country that want to see change and that believe in Umkhonto weSizwe. We know what we're doing. It's imminent in terms of the outcomes. And we'll continue to win.
Well, the objection is an IEC process. I mean, it is afforded to anyone, and it was made. Just going back to what we saw, in court yesterday and some of the things that we heard, there was another submission, of course, that the MK's legal representative was touching on, and that speaks to the utterances that were made by the commissioner of the IEC, Janet Love. Just talk to us a little bit about, that issue of bias that was made, especially given the fact that you are going to be working with the IEC very closely, following these elections.
Look, I mean, this again, the IEC ought to be beyond reproach. And specifically when it comes to leaders who have important roles, such as Janet Love. On the 24th of January, Janet Love made utterances off the back of a question regarding President Zuma. And she made a pronouncement that he would not be eligible to stand on the candidate list. A totally irresponsible comment coming from a person who ought to be beyond reproach and actually not show any bias whatsoever. And then what makes it worse, as opposed to her recusing herself from overseeing the upholding the commission process and upholding that objection, she ought to have recused herself. She continues to participate in that. So if that's not bias, and if that doesn't bring about red flags in terms of how the IEC kind of process and how they conduct themselves, and yet they want to call themselves independent, that in of itself, and by virtue of this judgment, is truly telling. And the IEC ought to really start doing proper introspection into themselves and their process and how they actually conduct themselves, if they want us to really truly take them as them being an independent institution. Will
you be taking the IEC to task? Is there any, fallout or any update in as far as that particular matter is concerned? I mean, Like I said, it is a crucial election. A lot of people, of course, listening to that argument in court yesterday in terms of the IEC's, standpoint, particularly as it relates to that bias submission that was then, responded to by the IEC's legal representative.
I think the best thing that the IEC ought to be doing right now, if I was Janet Love, I couldn't recuse myself as a commissioner from a commission that I would have overseen uphold a judgment. The best thing for Janet Love to do right now is to resign. If I was her, I would resign. Because the longer she's in there, especially in a senior position, and taking into consideration her background, having been an ANC MP, is very concerning in of itself. So I would say that the IEC leadership needs to now take that into consideration. She ought to be requested to resign. She needs to step down from her position, or at minimum, she must not be involved whatsoever in terms of these elections.
President Zuma is now back on that list. He is on the list. He is your representative. Yesterday, he made some utterances outside of court following the closure, of course, of those arguments, saying that he has essentially unfinished business at the Union Building. Also saying that he will run for president again, should the people need him to. Just talk to us about, why you think the MK party needs President Zuma back on, the seat. And will the MK party be able to unseat, as you've said on numerous occasions, the ANC, for instance?
Well, it's not the MK party, it's the people that want President Zuma. Remember, it's the people that went to President Zuma and requested him to come out of his retirement to lead, the MK party and to lead the people. And we said, President Zuma, we'll ensure that we bring and we rally a 2/3 majority to ensure that you get back into the office of presidency. President Zuma is a leader that is trusted, that is known. If you look at what has happened to date, when President Zuma was president, we had an SAA. When President Zuma was president, we had an ESCOM that gave us lights. When President Zuma was president, we had a Transnet that had rail infrastructure that moved, where we could export goods and commodities. Today, what we find ourselves is with an economy that has a currency that has lost 48% of its currency value, yet the JSE share values, in terms of dividend share payouts to white monopoly capital companies, continues to grow off the back of poverty-stricken people. Now, that is very telling, and we cannot continue in that way. So we want stability, we want a vibrant economy, we want jobs, we want free education that Cyril Ramaphosa has now reversed with his friend, Lady Nzimande. And it's about time that we take charge and take control of our country from this ANC that has been bought.
Very quickly, we have to wrap. You have another court case that is coming up, of course, that is a trademark-related case. What are your expectations on that?
A win. We'll win. We'll continue to win. As I've said, even with that particular one, we're confident that we'll come out there with a win. They cannot, let me put it this way. No one can stop the will of the people. No one can stop a project of ancestors and our natives, and this is exactly what it is. Our natives, our ancestors want their country back. They want it back in the hands of black people, and this is exactly what's going to happen. Trademark, IEC, deregistration, all of those, we're going to win them.